Hello. Okay, so here we are, 2025. Still talking about COVID. Actually, it wasn't really my intent to do this, but at the same time, just sort of thinking back, I thought I should cover some of the conspiracy theories that went on with COVID. And this is, I don't know, sort of, like I said, I believe a lot was done wrong with COVID, and there's a lot of false information out there, etc. But some people went to the extremes with their complaints about it, let's say. And so theories came out. Now, as I said in the past, I do believe that people used COVID to push their agenda. And I am going to distinguish between agenda and conspiracy on that one. People hear the word conspiracy and they think either some large nationwide or global problem. And so I'm using agenda more along the lines of, yeah, I can push this idea through if people, if I can convince people that this is related to COVID, that I can push this idea through. And it's not necessarily dangerous, not necessarily trying to take over the world or anything. It's just using a worldwide health scare to my advantage. And I'm not going to go into detail on that a lot either, because, like I said, can I prove that happened? No, but I believe it did happen on several occasions. And personal opinion on that one. So, looking at some of the theories that came out. And as I also said in the past, if you don't want people talking about conspiracy theories, then don't do things like you're part of conspiracy. So I am going to cover a little bit of that too, because there were cover-ups on things. Like, and there were, let's control the media, or let's have this. Let's take away the appearance of freedom, let's say. And there have been, videos online of people taking the different news broadcasts, and not even at the nationwide level, but at like the affiliate level, the local affiliate, and stringing them together and having people saying the same words, and not saying the same thing, saying the same words, almost like it was all scripted. And so someone in California and someone in Boston and someone in Illinois and whatever are all saying the same thing on the news. And when you see stuff like that, it looks like a conspiracy. And so I'm making fun of the conspiracy theorists a little bit here, but at the same time, I'm backing them up because there was a lot that did look like, oh yeah. It looks like, if you don't want people talking about conspiracies, don't run things like you're a member of a conspiracy. And when independent news networks or independent news teams are quoting each other, it starts to look like a conspiracy. So, to that extent, yeah, I sort of do support the idea of conspiracy theories when it comes to COVID, because stuff like that was happening. And it definitely looks like something bad was going on. Now, there are other things. I mentioned in an earlier video about how COVID was attributed to bats, and somehow that's how COVID got started. And about 2 months ago, read an article where they admitted, okay, yes, the protein that made COVID so hazardous was manufactured in a lab. So they might have gotten the original COVID from a bat, but then they took it to a lab and they manipulated it a bit. And we've known about this for 3 years, and we're just now admitting it. And in fact, they even admitted, yeah, we sort of covered up when people tried pointing this out. So yeah, definitely looks like there's a conspiracy going on there. we can make all sorts of, oh, we just didn't want people to panic, and so we're trying to. But at the same time, every dictator throughout history has said they were doing stuff for the good of the people and for maintaining peace and order and all that. So, it doesn't look good. Now, when it comes to there were people thought, they're trying to reduce the world population by X amount, 10%, 20%. COVID really didn't look like that. Now, I know one guy who says that he believes it was created by the Chinese to control their own population, and it got released by accident. So, semi-conspiratorial there, belief that it was created by the government or a government for a purpose, and things went wrong with it. So, the release of it wasn't a conspiracy, but the manufacture of it was. That makes some sense, because so far as, oh, let's release this and take over the world and reduce the population, it failed. Um, People died from it. People died from comorbidities. Nobody died strictly from COVID, even though some people say so. It's this person had a heart condition and got COVID, and the two combined killed them. This person had a lung condition and got COVID, and the two combined killed them. COVID itself did not kill anyone without some other factor being a part of it. So it wasn't the deadly disease people tried to make it out to be, although it could be deadly if you had other health problems. And that was never really clearly stated, or not by the powers that be. There were plenty of people coming out and saying, look, this isn't as bad as it looks. It's just, if you're in good health, it's not a threat. And they were shut up. And that's, again, back to, if you don't want people to think you're a member of a conspiracy, don't act like it. People, the government, agents, whatever, agencies, I should say, asking social media to not, to start censoring things. You got to start looking like a conspiracy there. People have the right to criticize it. But at the same time, the idea that this is it, there were conspiracy theorists came out, this is it, it's been released, they're gonna, the governments are gonna try to take over the world now, they're gonna try to suppress the people. And yes, like I said, people pushed their agenda, but did they try to take over the world with their agendas? Not quite. So, and the agendas were more of an afterthought. It wasn't a pre-planned thing, in my opinion, or it didn't look like it, at least. It was the sort of a, any opportunity to push my agenda I will take, and this is a random opportunity that came up. So I don't think that the release of COVID, again, I'm willing to think it was probably an accident, although its manufacture was a bad idea in the first place, and why were you manufacturing it in the first place? That's worth questioning it. Were the Chinese going to use it as a biological weapon against us? Possibly. That's why you make biological weapons. Or were they just going to use it to try to control their own population? Possibly. Other than that, why are you making it? There is no good explanation unless you're planning on using it for bad. That's not a conspiracy. That's just fact. Why do you create this deadly disease if you aren't planning on using it, or if you are planning? Yeah. So, again, some people would say, "Well, you're being a conspiracist when you say it." No, that's not really conspiracy. That's just a rational question. Okay, what else do we got? So, don't believe it was released on purpose, like some people do. Don't believe that the world bankers were behind it, although funding for this sort of research comes from somewhere. But at the same time, the people who fund research don't always know what they're funding. They, bunch of non-scientists controlling the purse strings about what gets funded. Happens all the time. Obviously we had a bunch of non-scientists making political decisions, and they were supposedly basing it on science, but at the same time they were shutting up any scientist who disagreed with them. And that's again back where we get to, yes, this looks like a conspiracy because we're shutting up anyone who disagrees with us and trying to impress upon social media to censor people. And yes, misinformation gets out there, but that had been going on before COVID. I mean, fake news. Donald Trump coined that phrase 4 years before COVID started. And most of what he called fake news, we look back at, and yes, it was actually stuff, Russia wasn't controlling our elections, other fake news stories weren't happening. Um, so there is reason to question some stuff, and there is reason to, like, not censor. You can call it fake news, but should you censor it? As long as they aren't overtly lying, which some people would say they were, but I would say they formed their decision and they only reported the studies which supported their opinion, and that's cheesy. Is it conspiratorial? No, it's happens in politics all the time. I only give the reports which support me or make my past decisions look good or whatever. Does that make a conspiracy? No. It's just, but at the same time, other people should have the right to turn around and say, yes, but this other study, which you didn't quote, says the exact opposite. And it's only when the government starts saying we should censor anyone who quotes these other studies that we start to get into conspiracy territory. So in that result, yeah, it looked like a conspiracy. Was it? Or was it just a bunch of politicians making stupid mistakes? Considering that, we hold freedom of speech to be one of the highest freedoms there is in America, it really looks bad when you start trying to censor people just because they disagree with you. So, yeah, does it look like a conspiracy? Yes. Was it a conspiracy or was it just bad politics? Possibly. Um, in fact, I'd be willing to give the benefit of the doubt and say that most of what looked like a conspiracy was just bad politics. Um, we had a huge overturn of the government in the last election, which would tend to point that some people agree with that. Uh, so that's really it. Like I said, there were people who said, this is all a conspiracy to take over the world. That didn't happen. There were conspiratorial looking things, you know, um, mostly just cover ups, agree with us or else, which sounds conspiratorial, except there was no teeth to back it up with. So, again, that's just bad politics again. So, in the long run, um, I don't think COVID was a conspiracy. I think it was an idea to control a population or use as a weapon, which of and by itself is not conspiratorial. It's governments trying to get an advantage over other governments, which happens. It's not. I'm not condoning that, especially with bioweapons, because bioweapons can get out of hand faster than other weapons. Um, so I don't think that was conspiracy. I do believe, like I said, people used it to push their agenda. So in that case, again, I'm not calling that a conspiracy, but some people would say, yeah, that's conspiracy. But it's understandable. It's provable, and yeah, it did look like a conspiracy because it was so horribly mishandled by people who wanted to push their agenda. And so that's it. Like I said, I gonna have one more COVID thing, just my summary and that's it, you know. But this one came along. I was going to make a summary one, and I thought I should sort of look at people's attitude towards COVID as opposed to just complaining about the policies all along. Because complaining about the policies, people would say, "Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist." So I thought I'd look at conspiracy theory of it and sort of, can you justify calling someone a conspiracy theorist just because they're against COVID? And in some cases you can, in some cases you can't. You just have to pick and choose, and I guess the proper word or proper idea would be you've got to use judgment on which ones. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Because there were some squirrely things going on, and so complaining about squirrely things going on by the government is perfectly valid without being a conspiracy. That's it. Have a nice day.